My guest this evening is a worldwide star of the guitar. His innovative techniques have dazzled audiences everywhere. His cover of George Michael's Careless Whisper went viral a few years ago, and as of today, it has over 11 million views on YouTube, in addition to all the other amazing videos and songs that this guest has done. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Mr. Alexandr Misko. Alex.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, how are you?
Nice to see you, and thanks a lot for having me today.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I'm a fan of your work, and I can't wait to talk to you about all kinds of different things related to everything Alex. Okay, so let's kind of start off with things. Since you're over in Moscow, correct?
No, that's not correct. I live in Krasnodar. It's in the very south of Russia. But in the internet, sometimes you can still find some misleading information that I'm like 19 or I'm 18 years old and that I live in Moscow, but it's not true.
Oh, okay, well, thanks for clarifying that. So let's kind of talk though about where you are living, and I'm over here in Washington State in the U.S. What's the pandemic been like over there?
I mean, yeah, it's been weird here because like most of the politics around the world, our local politics we're trying not to notice the pandemic when it started to happen. But then, I mean, they kind of had to put the quarantine all over the country, but then they just took it off maybe in a couple of months because, I mean, you can't keep that poor country for so many months out of work because, I mean, everything would be destroyed in terms of economics and stuff like that. So I'm not sure what's going on now. I'm pretty sure it's still the midst of the pandemic, but like nobody really notices that. No, everybody thinks that it's all right. And basically we got back to normal life. The only difference is that we can't travel around the world.
Okay,
I mean, we are as Russians.
Okay. You had a chance to tour the United States, and was that right before the pandemic took hold here in the US, or what was that timeline like?
Yeah, right. It was a pretty interesting tour because I was traveling with my friend, Peter Chilutsi, another great fingerstyle player and one of my earlier inspirations. And it's been a pleasure. We had to play around 9 concerts or something like that, just all around the Midwest. And also we were planning to finish it all in New York on the 15th of March. And that was the day when basically everything just went over the top. So thankfully we got to play most of the shows. I mean, the New York show got canceled and then I couldn't fly back home for some time. I had to stay with my friends in Buffalo because there was no way to find change tickets because my route back home, it's not easy. It takes usually 4 flights around that. So if one of them gets canceled, then you're just stuck. And yeah, that was pretty fun. And that was my last show, I think, since March. So I wasn't really playing and doing anything since then.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I've had some other guests on the show too that some of them were in other cities for work and then the pandemic hit and then they got stuck where they were. It's just kind of like what you were just talking about being in Buffalo. And then once they finally got a chance to get onto a flight to get back to wherever home was, then they did, and they've been kind of home ever since, basically. So
yeah, right.
Very, very similar story. I
was just happy that we managed to finish the tour basically, because if we would start it maybe 1 week later than we actually started it, then everything would be canceled and it would be a huge loss of money for the tickets, for the stuff, for all the logistics. So it would be a mess. It could have been.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's always kind of it's good to look at the positive side of things. But hey, let's kind of talk about, so the first music of yours, video of yours that I saw was actually Billie Jean. That's the first that I saw. And I was doing kind of kind of going down that rabbit hole on YouTube, going from one thing to another thing, looking at different musicians. And I saw your video. So I remember I clicked on it and I was like, I don't know if I can replicate the look on my face, but it was kind of like when I was watching you play. And so I'm like, holy crap, he's playing all these different parts at the same time, as one person. And so we're going to go back to kind of talking about your background, but in terms of that video and that song, what can you tell me about the recording of the cover of Billie Jean and also doing that video?
I mean, it wasn't anything special, like most of my videos. It just it was another arrangement just to to try out this idea, because I was just listening to the song and I was thinking, wow, I mean, this bass line sounds like I could play that with one hand, and the percussion there sounds like I could play that with another hand. And basically, I mean, my guitar is just here around, so I could just show you. It's in different tunings, so it doesn't matter. But I mean, the funny thing about drums in this song, that you don't just have this backbeat of kick drums and snare drums that go like. You also have some shakers on top that go like. So that's why I have to do kind of this stuff. So it sounds like. And then on top of that, I have hi-hats. And we haven't even started to play any notes. So that was the idea. So I heard that there are lots of drums to imitate, and it's possible to imitate because you can still play lots of things with one hand. And that's a pretty common approach in fingerstyle genre, like fingerstyle style of playing in general, because I mean, the idea is to be one-man band. I mean, not really like wannabe, but actually trying to be. And sometimes, I mean, it shouldn't be like a goal, because sometimes you don't want to mess it all up, just adding more layers and voices that kind of just hard to play and doesn't sound good. For Billie Jean, it kind of worked out, and it was just an idea of like checking out if it's possible to play it like this. And it turned out to be possible. Then I recorded this arrangement at home back then, just using one microphone. And then we just rented a bar in my city, quickly shot a video. I edited that, and then it kind of blew up. So I mean, you never know when some things would go viral or not. And I think that was one of my first viral videos that actually go viral internationally. It's a big difference when you go viral somewhere here locally, even when they invite you to some local TV shows. It basically doesn't mean nothing. But when you go that big in a worldwide scape, then you would definitely be waiting for some proper offers. And basically that's when my actual career started, when I started to play live in foreign countries, somewhere abroad, and when I actually started to build my international audience.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I'm a perfect example. Here's this guy in Seattle, Washington, watching your video and being amazed by it. So that's exactly what you're just saying, that you went viral internationally, and things took off. So I'm just kind of curious, not only with Billie Jean, but some of the other songs that you've covered. They usually come from that 80s and 90s time period. Where does your love of that music come from? Is it from your parents, or what? Where's that background?
I mean, my background is pretty weird, and basically it has nothing to do with like 80s and 90s, because I think the first big spark that actually made me interested in music in a more, like, let's say, meticulous way, not just like listening to something on the radio and thinking it's cool, but actually wanting to Google about the artist, to Google the lyrics, to go deeper. And that was basically East Coast and West Coast rap from late 90s, all this hardcore stuff. And that was my first huge inspiration. It's super fun to like kind of try to understand it for a kid who doesn't know language, who like didn't know language at that time, but still was fascinated by Tupac, by Exhibit, Nas, Eminem, and all those guys. There's something so powerful in this music, so sometimes you don't even have to understand lyrics. And then, it was like lots of different genres in music, but basically I'm just covering stuff that I don't hate. That's the point. Because the music from 90s and 80s is still okay for me. It's not like I'm a fan of Michael Jackson or George Michael or anybody else. It just, I mean, the audience loves it, and also it gives way for my original music. That's my true passion. I mean, if there would be a chance not to do covers, maybe I wouldn't do that. But still, it's super fun. I mean, I don't put too much of a thought or too much of feelings in it, and I'm just happy to see that some people can feel something out of it, because most of the time my covers are just technical exercises and idea explorations, like Billie Jean. There's nothing much in terms of feeling, and the same goes for Careless Whisper, that surprisingly went so viral, but there's nothing much than just an idea of turning tuning packs to imitate sax. So that's basically it, and I'm just happy that people find something in it, and that's good.
Yeah, no, obviously there's millions of people that are finding something within those technical exercises that you're covering with these artists. Yeah. And so let's kind of go like way back in terms of when you were first growing up and what you were like as a kid, and then when did your love or interest in music start?
I mean, yeah, as I was just saying, I was just listening to some random stuff, and I was never really planning to be a musician. And yeah, then a rap happened. That kind of made me interested in music in general. But then my parents just presented me my first classical guitar when I was like 13, I guess, because I loved rap. And when you love rap, usually you play guitar. That's right. And that's what basically what I was doing. And then I just started to attend classical guitar lessons straight away. I didn't have this stage of life that everybody likes, when you just go outside, when you meet up with friends and they show you some chords and you play Wonderwall or some local songs that people love here, because nobody knows Wonderwall here. And yeah, I mean, it was never like that. So I have always been more or less alone in my explorations. And at some point, I think maybe that was the reason why I started to upload videos, because at some point I kind of had to, there was a need for me to share it with somebody, like just to get some, I don't know, opinion, some value, so somebody would value it, because I have had nobody but my parents to check it out, and they're not even musicians. So I think that's one of the reasons why it all started, actually, for me, in the internet, because I had nothing to share my music with, and just in general what I was playing, not even only my music, just in general. And yeah, since then I was just practicing and doing stuff, and also try to find an inspiration, anything. Like, I was very into alternative rock and just rock music when I started playing guitar. But then I switched to some more obscure and weird, like, metal subgenres. I still love hip hop, and but now I'm going deeper into like some weird, like, genres, like, I don't know, hardcore, American hardcore punk of 90s and 80s, and Midwest emo, and some weird stuff like that, because it's very interesting to see where the roots of all this modern genres come from. And also, there's always a good idea to get some inspiration from there, because you don't want to be just a guitar player who gets inspired from other guitar players. You want to, like, kind of have a bigger picture of all the music scape.
Yeah, no, that's very, very well said. Was there something that drew you to doing fingerstyle acoustic guitar versus, maybe grabbing an electric and doing a bunch of things with an electric guitar?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely like a non-turning point, like a non-point thing, because I was basically just studying classical guitar with a private teacher here in my city. So it wasn't really obligatory. It wasn't a music school when you have to do it, when you have to pass exams and stuff like that. It's just like private lessons, so you can basically be a pretty lazy student, and the teacher would be trying to, I don't know, to bring you on some level. And that's why I'm really thankful to my teacher, because when I stumbled across fingerstyle, and particularly it was Canadian guitarist Don Ross, and he's like one of the biggest guys in the scene, and he's like the older generation. He's around 60 now, but he has always been one of the best guys in the world. And it just happened that I stumbled across his music somewhere, and then I just got in the rabbit hole again, like going from Don Ross to Andy McKee to Preston Reed and to some other fingerstyle guys. I mean, not everybody knows about those names, but in fingerstyle, in guitar world, all of them are pretty big. And I just couldn't stop learning their tunes, because I fell in love with music. It felt like that kind of music, that original 4-minute long original instrumental modern guitar music using some extended techniques, was something that I was lacking throughout all my life. And now it finally happened. So I just couldn't stop learning that. And at some point I was just thinking, okay, that's the last, like, fingerstyle song that I would learn. And then I'm going back to classical and keep studying properly. But I just couldn't do that. So at some point I just completely abandoned classical. I stopped attending private lessons, and I started to kind of work on it on my own. And that's why I'm so thankful to my teacher. I mean, obviously he couldn't really teach me fingerstyle, because he was like a straightforward classical guy, and it would be weird to expect him to explain to me how all the percussion and drums work, for example. But he was like, he was inspirational enough to give me, like, enough knowledge and basics for, like, throughout these 3 years, so I would be able to study fingerstyle on my own, just having these classical fundamentals. And yeah, since then I was just practicing my own, buying tabs, watching videos, trying to imitate. And also, yeah, I mean, that's why I got to here.
Okay. One thing that other viewers and fans have seen, if they watch your videos on your YouTube channel, is that you've been using a chopstick at times with some of the songs that you've covered or do. Where did that idea come from? And also, what kind of stuff goes beyond it? Like, are you putting a bunch of resin on that chopstick, or what kind of things can you talk about with that?
Yeah, chopstick is basically that's the one. Just a Chinese chopstick that you can get in any sushi restaurant, and I think the first guy that I seen doing that was Eduardo Agni. He is a guitarist from Brazil, but he lives in Norway now, and he was kind enough for me to teach me how it works, because like I was thinking, what's that stick, like how it works, how it sounds so beautiful, and we just hopped on call on Skype. And he explained to me that at first you just need to scratch it with a knife or something to make the surface rough enough. And then you just take this rosin, and you can see it's written there. It's rosin with a heart, because it's very important for me. And there's a piece of rosin, just a piece of stone, dusty stone. And then you go like this. Then you just rubbing it against the stone to create a better friction against the strings, and that's it. You're ready to play. And actually, that's one of the easiest tricks. And I picked it up from Eduardo Agni, but the idea is that it's not about the technicality. It's about what you can create with it. Because for some people would think it's a gimmick, like, wow, it's a stick. Oh, let me try to play with this stick. But in fact, it opens up so many possibilities that otherwise wouldn't be possible to achieve. So this kind of a gimmick becomes a very essential tool in my repertoire of things. And we were not even talking about my pedal board, which is like totally different thing to talk about. It would take like a couple of hours, because you can see it, but it's still it's there, and it's like 30 kilos of pedals and electronics, and all of that makes my sound, and the chopstick is just a small part of it.
Okay, no, that's fascinating, because I think the first video of yours that I saw was probably the Jurassic Park theme when you were using that, and I'm like, I still remember, I got really close to my phone, like, what is he doing there with that? I had just never seen anything like that or heard it. And it was, like you said, it's beautiful. And to me, I didn't look at it as a gimmick at all. It was more like he's got yet another tool in his toolbox that he's using as a guitar player. Just amazing watching you do those.
Sure. I mean, this song is called Absence. It's from my latest album that I released last year. And it's about being lonely when you're on the road, when you're homesick, or when you're traveling and touring, because traveling, touring, and playing is a lot of fun. But when you do that all alone all the time, it can be tiring sometimes. And I used to whine and complain about that every time in my shows. But when I finally stuck at home, I feel road sick again. So it's it's a little bit posery thing now, I guess. But yeah, this song is pretty important for me, and it's like one of my fan favorites. And actually, it's funny to see how lots of people actually try to learn it and to play it. So it's very inspiring for me as well to see that it gives so much of an impact to the guitar world and to the beginner players. And about the things that's going on here, obviously I rely a lot on different effects here, because acoustically it wouldn't sound as impressive, just because the strings are metal and the stick is wooden. So every time you do this kind of a rubbing thing against them, you hear a note, but you can hear this nasty scratching that you can't really hide. And that's the obvious problem, that you can't really fight here, unless if you're playing nylon string guitar. But I can't play nylon string guitar; it wouldn't work for this style of playing. So there are some ways to make it cleaner, like for example, to use lots of reverb. So I have this nice echo flying all around, and sounds way cleaner. And when you put some delay on top, I'll think my left amp got turned off. So yeah, when you have some delay on top, it sounds way more interesting. So yeah, I rely a lot on those things here. But again, it's not like it cannot be played unplugged. It's just my approach, and that's a totally different thing to discuss. Like because I approach the guitar just as a tool to compose and to realize my ideas on, but not really approaching it as an acoustic instrument, because that's an electric guitar, and it's awesome that it's an electric guitar, but because I can do some things that wouldn't be possible to do in an acoustic. yeah, I can do stuff like that and lots of other things. So yeah, it's so fun to explore, and it's a good thing that in fingerstyle we have no, I don't know, no gatekeepers, no anybody who would tell you that you're doing something wrong, and that's the best thing about it.
Okay, no, that's awesome. Thank you for that information. I know the other thing is I'm kind of looking at your, I'm not pointing the right way, at the headstock on your guitar. So you must, obviously you have modifications there. And can you kind of speak to that? Because I think a lot of people were really curious about when you did Careless Whisper, like how you were doing those saxophone parts using your tuning pegs.
Yeah, right. I mean, all the retuning thing is the easiest thing that I'm doing. It doesn't require any practice or anything. It's literally just, I still have this nice distortion here, so I can. So yeah, just I'm gonna keep it because it's fun. So yeah, I have like a C, for example, here, the C note, and I have this banjo pegs here. So it means that I can preset the first note, the top note, with my black screw. There are black screws on this side, so just literally just screw it down, and then the peg is set. I can't turn it farther than this point. So let's say that it's a C note, then I go lower, let it be A sharp, and then I have to set the silver screw, thumb screw, to make sure that the peg wouldn't go lower than this point. And that's it, we're all set. And you would never miss a note because it's all preset. And also I have these things on top that work as an additional detuner. So I have A sharp, I have C, and I have C sharp. Which is super fun.
Wow.
And it's all preset.
Now, again, I'm not as familiar with the fingerstyle community as you are. Is that something that you came up with, or are other guitarists, were they doing that before you did it?
I mean, of course, there were guitarists that did that before, and the first guitarist who put those banjo pegs on his guitar, it was Adrian Legg, the fantastic British guitarist, and like he did that in early '80s, I guess. And for the guitar world, it's still kind of a new thing. But for banjo players, I mean, they invented that literally in the '60s, and for them, it's not a trick. It's like the essential, integral part of some classic bluegrass music from the '60s and '70s. I mean, actually, it was Earl Scruggs who invented those pegs, so they called Scruggs pegs or Keith tuners, and it doesn't really matter, it's getting too nerdy, but the point is that for the guitar it's still a new thing, and it's still impressive. But again, if you're not taking the musical context in the consideration, it's just a gimmick, because it's like it doesn't require any practice. You just go up and down. Basically you don't even know what to do with that. Like you just have two notes that you can turn. But then again, when your imagination comes into play, and when the musical context comes into play, you can do lots of things. And the easiest thing and the most interesting thing for me is not even those bendy bends. It's just the fact that you can play a song, and when there's a key change or something, when you have to do something in a very uncomfortable shapes to play, you can just silently change the tuning during the song. You don't even have to stop and do this. You can just go like. So you don't even have to do this nasty tuning thing. So that's one of the part of it. And I have those pegs on all the 6 strings, so I can use 2 hands. Sometimes I use 2 hands to retune something on the fly. Sometimes I use different strings. A whole lot of possibilities.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating to me. And I also know, like, a lot with your playing, that there's a lot of harmonics going on in a lot of the videos and songs that I was listening to. And do you have a particular technique that you're using when you're using those harmonics when you're playing songs, or is it just, well, what are you doing there when you use harmonics?
I mean, yeah, harmonics is a very important thing here, and just because I love the sound, I think it would be nice to invent an instrument when all the frets would be harmonics someday. But yeah, I mean, basically there are so many ways to produce harmonics, and aside from talking about some like classical harmonics, when you just like traditional, when you just put your hand here and you just pluck it with the other hand, you can go with classical harmonics when you play that with your index finger touching the note point and plucking with your ring finger. it's already pretty cool because you can do that with one hand, but you can expand it. You can play the full chords like that. Or it gets more interesting because you can also play harmonics like that with this hand. Or playing this way, playing triplets. I'll play the full chords with this hand. I mean, lots of ways. And we're not even talking about retunings like retuning harmonics, because that's a different thing. It allows you to have more notes than you actually have on your fretboard, because you can retune the string and get different notes. So yeah, I mean, harmonics is a whole world of exploration.
Oh, okay. And I guess another thing I want to ask was that some of the other people that I've seen play videos in terms of fingerstyle things, they're starting to get to this point where they're starting to do, at least video-wise, I don't know about what they're doing live, but they have one guitar with them, and then they've been doing one where there's a second one flat, like on a table, and they're doing this kind of thing where they're playing the flat one and also playing the one that's strapped around them. Have you explored anything like that where you're using two guitars?
I mean, maybe I would explore that, but I just like the limits. You know, the limits are always very inspirational, because when you know that you have only 6 strings and you have a more or less traditional acoustic guitar, even though I have lots of pickups inside and lots of pedals, essentially, it's still just an acoustic guitar, and you can play anything on it if you would be left-handed, of course. But that's a different thing. And I mean, it's very nice because having limits makes you kind of think differently, thinking in a very, let's say, kind of a limited space of things that you can do. Like, for example, that Billie Jean song, when you can play these bass notes here with one hand. Of course, I could use other guitar tuned to all the melody notes, like having soprano strings on it, just the thin strings, so I could play the melodies on the other guitar and wouldn't even thinking about how to press them down here. But it's not so fun as trying to keep this bass line going here and at the same time playing the same thing in the same neck. So it's like, for me, it's a different thing. It's always interesting to overcome these obstacles. And sometimes you can't overcome it. Sometimes you have to use like a second guitar or something. But eventually, I think it still should be pointed towards some proper musical context. Because, I mean, I've never seen a person doing an original song using 2 guitars or 3 guitars or 4 guitars. And that's the most disappointing thing for me. Because, I mean, covers are fun and people love covers and it's fun for YouTube, for entertainment and stuff like that. But that's not the real thing. I mean, people wouldn't remember that. It's not something that you would call a legacy or something like that. So, I mean, even a badly composed song is better for me than a cover, because a badly composed song can turn you after some years and after like 1,000 more badly composed songs into some proper good music that you wrote, not somebody that you just, I don't know, covered. So, but yeah, but that's just my approach.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense of what you're talking about. That are you to a point where you have, do you have your own model of acoustic guitar? Is there a company out there that's making one for you, or is that like the one that you've been playing forever? Is that just your own guitar that you've done all the mods to?
Yeah, right. Actually, we have been working with Baton Rouge guitars. It's not the Baton Rouge that's in Louisiana. It's in Germany, and it's a German company. I'm not even sure why they named it this way, but they're awesome guys, and they make great acoustic guitars for like intermediate players. And I've been supporting them for a long time, even though I played handcrafted guitars. This guitar is like it's a Loudon guitar. It's from Northern Ireland, so it's like totally handcrafted. But with Baton Rouge, we're actually already have created the new signature model for me that I can't really tell you a lot about it because it's still waiting for me in Germany. I still haven't touched that guitar, and I really hope I would like it, because if I would like it, then I would be playing that guitar all along, and then maybe we would release it as my signature model so people would be able to buy it as well. But for now, I'm pretty happy with this guitar. It's a Loudon guitar, again, made in Downpatrick in Northern Ireland. And these guitars are pretty famous in the world of fingerstyle, because turns out they just work best for fingerstyle. And essentially, it's a regular guitar, and it's John Gaume signature. It's not my signature, but it's John Gaume signature. He's one of my biggest inspirations, and actually, he's here. That's John Gaume. And he's one of my biggest inspirations, and I really wanted to take his concept of his vision of how his perfect guitar would look like, and also there are lots of modifications. So eventually it's just a regular guitar, but it has fan frets. It means that they are kind of crooked, just to accommodate my low tunings better. It's not like a fancy magic trick. It wouldn't help me to play better. It just helps to keep my strings better in tune when I go like down to A sharp or G sharp or something. Also, all this tuning system here on the head, but you can put that on any guitar. It's not like something special here. I can easily take all these metal devices off, and that wouldn't work. That would work. And also all the pickups here, it would take too long to explain. But yeah, this is something that's pretty unique for this guitar, and that I've been developing for years, like thinking and failing and exploring. But again, it's something that you can put in any guitar. So yeah, I like the fact that it's just just a regular guitar. And when people see that in my videos, they just they go to my concerts and see the guitar that I'm playing. They thinking that, hey, it's basically the same guitar that I have in my attic. And it means that I can just grab it anytime and play something similar, and they would be right. I mean, maybe they wouldn't have all the pedals and reverbs and stuff like that, but why would they even get bothered about that? It's the fact that you can play this music on any acoustic guitar, and for me, it's like twice as inspiring as seeing like somebody with this monster, I don't know, 10-neck guitar, and people would think that, oh yeah, I would never be able to do that, because it's like I would have to buy this guitar for like $1 million first. I mean, it's of course it's all about music. Let's say musical needs. If you really need 10-neck guitar to play something, it's good. But I think yeah, just it's for me, it definitely was inspiring to see Don Ross and Andy McKee and all those my early inspirations playing regular guitar, and then realizing that I can play the same kind of stuff and it feels the same, and you're so excited about that just by the fact that you can actually copy that and play the same song that you love. So I think that was one of the very important reasons why I have been doing all that stuff and do this until this day.
Okay. Well, Alex, it's been such an amazing time talking with you for the last 45 minutes. And I just want to ask you one last question, is that have you been working on new music for an eventual release, or what have you been doing that's coming up eventually?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think I released my best album yet. It's called Roundtrip, that I released last year, and this Absence song is from there. And basically, I haven't even composed anything essential since when I got back home in March. And that was pretty sad to me, because I always compose things, I was thinking about something, and I just don't like the fact that I already released 3 albums of fingerstyle music, and I don't want to release more of fingerstyle music, because it's the same thing. That's why I started to explore rap combined with fingerstyle, and now we're working with my friend who plays bass, electric bass, and we're actually composing music again. And I feel so excited that with collaboration with somebody where I still play fingerstyle, but not in the same manner that I usually do, trying to imitate everything. Now I can just leave something to my friend where I would be more focusing on melodies or some other ideas that I wouldn't be able to develop on my own. And that's super exciting. So I think if things would go nicely, then we would release a collaboration album with my friend, just original music, I guess. Maybe by the end of this year, or maybe in the beginning of next year. And I'm really excited about that, because it's something different. I can't just play the same fingerstyle for years. I'm not the guy like that. So if there's no change, if there's no development, I would just get bored and, I don't know, would start a rap artist career.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate watching you play and learning everything today, and hope that you stay safe over there, and that at some point I'll get a chance to see you play live here in the U.S. when things eventually clear up.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much, and yeah, hope to see you in the U.S. someday. Thank you for your time.
All right. Take care.